The conference room on Kepler 9 station was the largest space ambassador Tae Kim had ever seen. The ceiling stretched up so high that clouds could have formed near the top. 12 different alien species sat around a table that could have fit a small spaceship. Each species had brought their own advisors, guards, and translators. The room buzzed with dozens of different languages being spoken at once. Tai sat perfectly still in his chair. He wore a simple black suit with Earth's flag on his shoulder. Next to him sat Captain Hae Yoon in her military uniform. She was looking at her datapad, but Tae knew she was watching everything in the room. That was her job. Across from them sat High Chancellor Vexnar of the Velkari Dominion. He was tall, maybe 9 feet when standing. His skin was blue-gray and covered in small scales that caught the light. When he spoke, his voice sounded like grinding metal. Behind him stood 20 Velkari officials in red robes. They all looked at the humans with the same expression. It was not quite contempt. It was more like how someone looks at a child who needs to be taught a lesson. "We call this meeting to order," Vexnar said. His words came through the translator device on the table. "The Galactic Council has prepared terms for the Terran species. These terms are standard for all species who join galactic civilization. You will listen, and then you will agree." Tae noticed that Vexnar said, "You will agree," not, "You may agree." He kept his face neutral and nodded once. A hologram appeared above the table. It showed a map of human space. Earth was at the center, surrounded by 37 colony worlds. Red circles appeared around 17 of those colonies. Tai felt his jaw tighten, but he did not speak. These 17 systems, Vexnar continued, were designated for other species by Council authority 300 years before humans achieved space travel. Your colonies must evacuate within 2 standard years. The populations will be relocated to approved zones. A Skaran delegate spoke up next. Her name was Regin, and she had a softer voice than Vexnar. "We understand this may seem harsh," she said, "but this is how the galaxy maintains order. Every species must accept these boundaries." The hologram changed to show population numbers. Tae saw Earth's current population flash on the screen, 12 billion. Then another number appeared, 6 billion. "Humanity's population exceeds safe limits," another alien said. This one was from the Thalosi Collective. His species looked like walking insects. "You must implement population controls immediately. Breeding licenses will be issued by the Council. This is for your own good. Overpopulation leads to resource wars. We have seen it happen before." Tae wrote notes on his own datapad. Next to him, Hae Yoon had not moved. Her eyes were still on her screen, but he knew she was recording every word. The demands continued. Humanity would pay reparations for using those 17 star systems. The amount was staggering, 3 trillion credits. Human military development would be overseen by Council inspectors. No new warship designs could be built without approval. Human technology companies would need licenses to operate in Council space. The licenses would cost money. A lot of money. Furthermore, Vexnar said, and Tae heard something almost like pleasure in the alien's voice, all human trade must go through Council-approved channels. A tariff of 30% will be applied to all goods. This funds galactic peacekeeping operations. The hologram showed more numbers, more restrictions, more rules. It went on for 2 hours. The aliens had clearly spent a long time preparing this document. Every detail was planned. Every loophole closed. The message was clear. Humanity would do exactly what they were told or else. Finally, Vexnar finished. "These are the terms," he said. "They are not negotiable. Every species that has achieved faster than light travel has accepted similar terms. Some tried to resist at first. They learned that resistance was foolish. The Council has maintained galactic peace for 10,000 years. We know what we are doing." The room fell silent. All eyes turned to the human delegation. Tae looked down at his notes. He had filled 3 pages with careful handwriting. Next to him, Hae Yoon finally looked up from her datapad. She met his eyes for just a second. He saw the question there. He gave a tiny nod. Tae stood up slowly. The room seemed to hold its breath. He looked at each alien delegation one after another. He saw the same expression on most of their faces. They expected him to argue, to ask for better terms, to beg for mercy. That was what every other species had done. "I have a question," Tae said quietly. Vexnar made a sound that might have been a laugh. You may ask, but the terms will not change. My question is simple, Tay said. He kept his voice calm and soft. What happens if we refuse? The room erupted. Aliens chittered, clicked, and hissed in what sounded like laughter. Some of them were actually slapping the table. Refuse? The very idea seemed to amuse them greatly. Vexnar's scaled face split into what might have been a smile. Refuse? He said. No one refuses the Galactic Council. Where would you go? What would you do? You are alone in the galaxy. You have no allies. Your technology is primitive compared to ours. Your military could not defeat even the smallest council member species. You would face economic sanctions that would cripple your worlds. You would face military action. You would face isolation. He leaned forward. But none of that will happen, because you are not stupid enough to refuse. Are you Ambassador Tay? Tay looked at the alien leader for a long moment. Then he looked at Regen, who was watching him with something that might have been pity. He looked at the Thalosi delegate, whose insect eyes showed no emotion at all. He looked at all 12 species, all these ancient civilizations that had ruled the galaxy for so long. We need time to consider your terms, Tay said finally. We request a recess of 3 hours. Vexnar waved a scaled hand. You may have your 3 hours. Use them to accept reality. When you return, you will sign the agreement. There is no other choice. Tay bowed slightly. Then he and Hai Yun walked out of the conference room. Behind them, the aliens were already celebrating. They thought they had won. They thought humanity would do what every other species had done. They thought they knew what was coming. They were completely wrong. 3 hours passed quickly on Kepler 9 station. Tay and Hay sat in a small room assigned to the human delegation. The room was clean but plain. White walls, a metal table, 6 chairs, no windows. It felt like a cell. Hay had her computer open on the table. Lines of text scrolled across the screen. She was connected to Earth Command through encrypted channels. Tay knew what those messages said. He had helped write them weeks ago before they ever came to this station. Earth Command confirms, Hayes said without looking up. All human assets are ready to move. All personnel in Council space have been notified. All ships are fueled and prepped for jump. We just need to give the word, Tay nodded. He was reading the Council's terms again. 17 colonies abandoned, 6 billion people who would never be born, complete control of human military, crushing taxes on all trade, and reparations. Always the reparations. Payment for daring to expand into empty space. Do you think they will actually attack us? Hay asked. She finally looked up from her screen. Her face was calm, but Tay had known her for 10 years. He could see the worry in her eyes. Yes, Tay said simply. Maybe not immediately, but eventually, yes. Species like the Velkari only understand power. If we show weakness now, they will never stop taking from us. And if we walk away, then we find out if humans are as tough as we think we are. Hay smiled slightly. Admiral Park says the fleet is ready. He says to tell you that humanity did not crawl out of caves and cross oceans and reach the stars just to bow to aliens who think they own the galaxy. Tay laughed. It felt good to laugh. That sounds like Park, all right? Send the signal. Operation Exodus begins now. Hay typed commands into her computer. Somewhere, light years away, human ships began moving. Thousands of them. Merchants, engineers, doctors, teachers, all the humans scattered across Council space. They would all come home. Every single one. When the 3 hours were up, Tay and Hay walked back to the conference room. The aliens were waiting. Most of them looked relaxed. Some were drinking what Tay assumed was alcohol. They were confident. This was just a formality. Humans would sign the papers. Humans would accept the terms. That was how it always worked. Tay walked to his seat but did not sit down. He placed a small data chip on the table. Then he looked at Vexnar. The United Government of Earth has reviewed your terms, Tay said. His voice was loud and clear. We reject them completely. The room went silent. Several aliens stopped drinking. Vexnar's scaled face showed confusion. You reject them? The High Chancellor said slowly. You cannot reject them. These terms are, we reject all demands, Tay continued. He spoke faster now. We will not abandon our colonies. We will not accept population controls. We will not pay reparations for settling empty star systems. We will not submit to council oversight of our military. We will not pay your taxes, Regent stood up. Ambassador Tay, please. You do not understand what you are doing. These terms can be negotiated. We can discuss modifications, but you cannot simply refuse. We can, Tay said, and we do. Now Vexenar stood. His full height was impressive and clearly meant to intimidate. This is madness. You will destroy your own species. With this foolishness, we offer you a place in galactic civilization and you spit on it? Tay picked up the data chip. On this chip is Earth's official response. I will summarize it for you now. Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from all Galactic Council proceedings. We are closing our borders. Any Council ship that enters human space without permission will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. The Thalosi delegate made a clicking sound. You would declare war on the entire Council? You would face 12 species? You are insane. We are not declaring war, Hai said. She stood next to Tay. We are declaring independence. There is a difference. We do not want your territory. We do not want to rule you. We simply want to be left alone. Left alone? Vexenar's voice rose. You think you can survive alone? Your economy depends on Council trade. Your technology is built on Council knowledge. Your ships use jump lanes that we maintain. Without us, you are nothing. Tai smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Then you have nothing to worry about. We will fail on our own and you can say you were right. Good luck with your empire, High Chancellor. He turned to leave. Hay followed him. Behind them, the aliens erupted into chaos. Voices shouted in a dozen languages. Vexenar was yelling something about consequences and sanctions and military force. Re-Jin was calling for order, asking the humans to please stop and reconsider. Tay and Hay kept walking. They left the conference room. They walked down the long corridor. They passed alien security guards who looked confused. They reached the docking bay where the human shuttle was waiting. Inside the shuttle, 5 other members of the delegation were ready. They had been watching the meeting through live feeds. When Tay and Hay entered, everyone stood. Did we really just do that? One of them asked. Her name was Dal, and she was the trade advisor. She looked pale. We did, Tay said. He sat in the pilot's chair and began the launch sequence. Strap in, we are leaving. The shuttle lifted off smoothly. Through the window, Tay could see Kepler 9 station growing smaller. It was a beautiful structure, all silver metal and glowing lights. It had taken the Council 300 years to build it. It was supposed to represent unity and cooperation. Right now, it represented everything Tai hated. Rules designed to keep the powerful strong and the newcomers weak. Laws that protected old empires and crushed new ones. Peace maintained through fear and submission. Ambassador, Hai said. She was monitoring communications. The station is hailing us. Vexenar wants to speak with you. Ignore it, Tay said. He is threatening to disable our ship. He says we cannot leave until this is resolved. Tay looked at his navigation computer. The jump coordinates were set. Let him try. We will be in hyperspace in 90 seconds. Even if he fires, he cannot catch us. The shuttle's engines powered up. Tay felt the familiar vibration as the jump drive charged. On his screen, he saw 3 Council security ships moving to intercept. They were too slow. They had not expected this. No one had ever walked away from Council negotiations before. Jump drive ready, Hay announced. Execute, Tay said. Space twisted. Reality bent. The shuttle leaped forward at impossible speeds. In an instant, Kepler 9 station vanished behind them. They were racing back toward human space at faster than light speed. Inside the shuttle, no one spoke for several minutes. They were all thinking about what they had just done. They had gambled everything. Earth's future. Humanity's place in the galaxy. All of it rested on a simple belief, that humans could survive alone. Finally, Dal spoke. What happens now? Tay looked out at the swirling lights of hyperspace. Now we find out if we are as strong as we think we are. Contact all human facilities in Council space. Tell them to come home. Operation Exodus is now active. Every human, every ship, every piece of equipment. Bring it all back. And if the Council attacks? Another advisor asked. Then we fight, Tay said simply. We have been fighting since the first human stood up and decided to walk instead of crawl. We will keep fighting until we either win or die. That is what humans do. In the conference room back on Kepler 9, Vexenar stared at the empty space where the human shuttle had been. Around him, alien leaders argued and panicked. But the High Chancellor was beginning to understand something that terrified him. The humans had not walked away because they were afraid. They had walked away because they were not. The factory on Thalos 7 had been running for 200 years. It produced engine components for ships used across the galaxy. The factory was efficient, profitable, and completely dependent on technology that the Thalosi barely understood anymore. 3 days after the humans left, the main assembly line stopped working. Manager Krell stared at the silent machines with growing panic. The error message on his screen made no sense. He called his best engineers. They looked at the problem for hours. Finally, they admitted they did not know how to fix it. "Call the human maintenance team," Krell ordered. His assistant made a nervous clicking sound. "The humans left, Manager. They evacuated 2 days ago. All of them." Krell felt something cold in his chest. "All of them? Why?" "Orders from Earth. Something about closed borders." The factory stayed silent for 3 more days. Krell finally found the problem. A power relay had failed. It should have been simple to replace. But when they opened the relay housing, they found something that made Krell's legs weak. The relay was not Thalosi design. It was human. And it connected to 17 other human-made components that the Thalosi engineers had never noticed before. The humans had not just fixed the factory over the years. They had improved it. They had added their own technology bit by bit, making everything work better. Now those improvements were failing, and no one knew how to maintain them. The instruction manuals were in perfect Thalosi language, but they required understanding concepts that Thalosi education never taught. By the end of the first week, factory output had dropped by 40%. By the end of the second week, 3 other factories on Thalos 7 reported similar problems. The humans were gone, and suddenly the Thalosi realized how much they had relied on them. On the other side of the galaxy, Captain Morrow of the merchant vessel Bright Prophet was facing his own crisis. His ship carried medical supplies destined for the Scaran colony world of Deneb4. The route required passing through the Kagari Nebula, a region filled with radiation storms and unstable gravity fields. For 10 years, human freighter captains had been running supplies through the Kagari Nebula. It was dangerous, but humans seemed to have a talent for dangerous flying. Other species had tried and failed. Ships were lost. Crews died. Eventually, everyone agreed that the Kagari route was for humans only. Now the humans were gone. Captain Morrow looked at his navigation computer. The safe route around the nebula would take 6 weeks. The medical supplies would spoil. People on Deneb 4 would die without them. He had no choice. He would have to try the Kagari route himself. He made it 3 hours into the nebula before his ship's system started failing. The radiation was stronger than his instruments had shown. His shields were not designed for this kind of stress. Warning alarms screamed at him from every console. Captain Morrow turned his ship around and ran for clear space. He barely made it out. His ship was damaged. His crew was sick from radiation exposure, and the medical supplies never reached Deneb 4. 2,000 Scarans died in the outbreak that followed. The Merchant Guild called an emergency meeting. 43 trade routes had been designated as human routes because no one else could fly them safely. Now all 43 routes were closed. Supply chains that connected dozens of worlds were breaking. Prices for basic goods were rising fast. "We need the humans back," the Guildmaster said. "We cannot function without them." But the most disturbing discovery came from the Velkari military. Admiral Thex was reviewing his fleet's defense systems when he noticed something odd. The shield generators on his flagship were running at 95% efficiency. That was good, very good. Better than standard Velkari technology usually managed. He called his chief engineer. "Why are our shields performing above specifications?" The engineer looked uncomfortable. "The generator cores were upgraded 3 years ago, Admiral. A human company sold us improved components. They said it was civilian technology, just better manufacturing. And we installed them throughout the fleet?" "Yes, Admiral. They work perfectly. Better than our old systems." Thex felt a cold sensation spreading through his body. "Do we understand how they work?" The engineer hesitated. "We understand the basic principles, but the actual mechanisms are complex. The humans provided full documentation, but our engineers would need months of study to fully comprehend the designs. We have been using them based on the human instruction manuals." Thex pulled up a fleet-wide inventory. 17 critical systems across the Velkari military included human-designed components, not weapons. The Council had never allowed humans to sell weapons. But power systems, shield generators, sensor arrays, life support backups, all of it human technology. all of it now frozen in time because the humans had stopped transmitting software updates. What happens when these systems need repairs? Thex asked. We have spare parts for now. The humans sold us a 10-year supply, but after that, the engineer trailed off. After that, we are dependent on human goodwill, Thex finished. And right now the humans are not feeling very willing. The problems multiplied across the galaxy. On space stations, human-designed life support systems needed maintenance that no one else could provide. In research facilities, experiments failed because human lab technicians were no longer available for consultation. Even simple things like door locks and elevator systems started breaking down. The humans had been everywhere. They had fixed things, improved things, and made things work better. Other species had not noticed because the humans did it quietly. They did not brag. They just solved problems and moved on to the next challenge. Now they were gone, and the galaxy was discovering how many problems humans had been solving. High Chancellor Vexnar sat in his office on the Velkari home world. Reports were flooding in from across council space. Economic disruption, supply failures, technical breakdowns, and all because humanity had decided to leave. Regin entered without knocking. We have a serious problem, she said. I am aware of several serious problems, Vexnar replied coldly. This one is worse. Human technology companies have stopped transmitting updates. Thousands of computer systems across the galaxy are running human operating software. Without updates, they are vulnerable to crashes, security failures, and data corruption. Vexnar felt his scales tighten. How many systems? We are still counting, but preliminary estimates suggest millions of devices, maybe billions. Humans sold their software cheaply. Everyone bought it because it was reliable and easy to use. Now it is a liability. Can we replace it? Eventually. But it would take years and cost trillions of credits. And in the meantime, critical infrastructure is at risk. Vexnar stood and walked to his window. Outside, the towers of the Velkari capital stretched toward the sky. Beautiful, ancient, powerful. But now he saw them differently. How much of that power depended on human innovation? How much of their strength came from technology they did not fully understand? We made a mistake, Vexnar said quietly. Yes, Regin agreed. We thought humans needed us. We thought they were weak newcomers who would be grateful for our guidance. We were wrong. They did not need us at all. We needed them. Can we fix this? Regin was silent for a moment. I do not know. The humans are angry. They feel disrespected. They have closed their borders completely. Our ambassadors cannot even request meetings. The humans are simply ignoring us. Vexnar turned from the window. Then we must make them listen. Prepare a new delegation. We will offer new terms. Better terms. Whatever it takes to bring them back. And if they refuse again, then we will have to consider other options. Regin's expression hardened. You mean military force? I mean ensuring the survival of galactic civilization? The humans walked away from the table. Perhaps they need to be reminded that there are consequences for such actions. But even as Vexnar said those words, he felt doubt creeping into his mind. The humans had walked away very confidently. They had planned their exit carefully. They had extracted all their people and assets in less than a week. That spoke of preparation, of planning, of expecting exactly this situation, which meant the humans had known what they were doing. They had anticipated the Council's reaction. They were ready for what came next. That realization terrified Vexnar more than anything else. 3 months after humanity closed its borders, the Galactic Council held an emergency session. Representatives from all 12 member species gathered on their home station. The mood was dark. 6 species were reporting serious economic problems. 3 more were experiencing political unrest. And the Velkari Dominion, the strongest military power in the Council, was quietly panicking about their defense systems. Vexnar stood at the center of the Council chamber. His scaled face looked tired. We must face reality, he said. We made an error in judgment regarding the human species. Our demands were too harsh. Our attitude was too proud. We pushed them away and now we are paying the price. A Thalosi representative clicked angrily. We offered them civilization. We offered them order. They refused like ungrateful children. They refused because we treated them like children, Regin said quietly. We assumed they needed us more than we needed them. We were wrong. The chamber filled with arguing voices. Some wanted to double down on threats. Others wanted to apologize. A few suggested military action, but everyone agreed on one thing: the humans had to come back. The galaxy could not function without them. We will send a new delegation, Vexnar decided. We will offer revised terms. Reasonable terms. Terms that respect human sovereignty while maintaining council authority. Ambassador Regin will lead this mission. Regin bowed. I will do my best. You must succeed, Vexnar said. The alternative is unacceptable. 2 weeks later, Regin's ship approached the human border at the Arcturus system. The system was on the edge of human space, a natural choke point. It had always been lightly defended before. Now it bristled with weapons platforms, military stations, and patrol ships. Her communications officer spoke nervously. We are being scanned. Multiple targeting locks detected. They are not friendly. Open a channel, Regin ordered. This is Ambassador Regin of the Scaran Concordat. I request permission to speak with human authorities. I bring an official message from the Galactic Council. Silence. Long, uncomfortable silence. Then a voice came through the speakers. It was calm, professional, and completely unyielding. This is Admiral J. Park of the Terran Defense Force. State your business. I request a meeting to discuss terms for renewed diplomatic relations between humanity and the Council. More silence. Regin could feel her crew watching her. They were scared. The human defense platforms had enough firepower to reduce her ship to atoms. She had no doubt they would use it if she made a wrong move. You may approach the border station, Admiral Park finally said. You will be escorted by military vessels. Any deviation from the flight path will result in immediate destruction. Do you understand? I understand. 2 human warships appeared on her sensors. They were smaller than Council ships, but they moved with frightening speed and precision. They boxed her ship in and guided it toward a small station orbiting a dead moon. The border station was new. Humans had built it in the 3 months since closing their territory. It was functional rather than beautiful. Gray metal, bright lights, and weapons everywhere. This was not a place for diplomacy. It was a fortress. Regin docked her ship and walked through the airlock. Inside, she was met by Admiral Park and another human in civilian clothes. The Admiral was older, maybe 60, with gray hair and sharp eyes. The civilian was younger, a woman named Bora Shin, who introduced herself as a diplomatic officer. Welcome to Arcturus Station, Bora said. She did not smile. Please follow us. They led Regin to a small conference room. It was nothing like the grand chamber on Kepler 9. This room had a table, 6 chairs, and 1 window showing the emptiness of space. The message was clear. Humans were not interested in impressing anyone anymore. Regin sat down. She placed a data chip on the table. I bring revised terms from the Galactic Council. We acknowledge that our previous demands were excessive. We wish to negotiate a new agreement. We are not interested in agreements, Admiral Park said flatly. Please at least review what we are offering. The Council is willing to drop most of the previous demands. You can keep your colonies. Population controls are now advisory only, not mandatory. The reparations are reduced to a symbolic amount. And military oversight will be minimal. Bora picked up the data chip. She plugged it into a computer and read quickly. Then she looked at Regin with something that might have been pity. You came all this way to offer us half of what we already have? These are significant concessions, Regin said. The Council has never offered such generous terms to any species. You are offering us permission to do what we are already doing, Admiral Park said. We have our colonies. We control our population as we see fit. We pay no reparations to anyone. And our military answers only to Earth. Why would we accept less than what we already possess? Regin felt frustration rising. Because isolation is not sustainable. You need trade. You need allies. You need the knowledge and technology that the galaxy can provide. Do we? Bora asked. She pulled up a hologram showing human space. Regin saw dozens of new colonies marked on the map. In 3 months, we have expanded to 42 new systems. Our economy is growing faster than it did under Council trade restrictions. And as for technology, we are doing fine on our own. You are growing into unregulated space, Regin said. That is dangerous. There are reasons those regions were left empty. Pirate clans, hostile species, environmental hazards, Admiral Park smiled. We fought pirates on Earth's oceans for thousands of years. We know how to deal with them. As for hostile species, we are prepared for that too. And environmental hazards? Humans lived in deserts, jungles, frozen tundra, and radioactive cities. We are very good at surviving in hostile environments. Regen tried a different approach. What about the smaller species in the galaxy? The ones who depend on Council protection? If the Council weakens, they will suffer. Then perhaps the Council should have treated them better, Bora said coldly. We have been contacted by 17 non-Council species in the past month. They want to trade with us. They want human engineers and human technology. They want the same things the Council species got, except now they do not have to pay Council taxes or follow Council rules. This was news to Regen. Unauthorized contact with non-Council species was strictly forbidden. The humans were actively breaking galactic law. You are destabilizing the entire political structure of the galaxy. Good, Admiral Park said. Your political structure was designed to keep the powerful strong and everyone else weak. It was time for a change. Regen stood up. You are making a terrible mistake. The Council has military forces that could crush humanity. We have been patient. We have offered peace. But there are limits to our patience. Admiral Park stood as well. He was shorter than Regen, but his presence filled the room. Ambassador, let me be very clear. Earth's government analyzed Council military capabilities 30 years ago, when we first made contact. We have been preparing for this exact scenario since then. We knew eventually you would threaten us. We knew you would demand submission. We knew you would try to control us. He walked to the window and looked out at space. We also knew we could not match your numbers. So we did not try. We focused on what humans do best: adapting, innovating, and fighting dirty. You have more ships than us. Your ships are bigger than ours. But we have spent 30 years learning how to beat you anyway. You think you can defeat the entire Galactic Council? Regen asked. No, Admiral Park said honestly. In a total war, you would probably win. You have more resources, more territory, more bodies to throw at us. But here is the thing. War is expensive. War is destructive. And right now your economy is already struggling without human involvement. How much worse will it get when you are spending trillions of credits on a military campaign? How will your people react when they realize you started a war because you could not accept that one species wanted independence? Bora added, We are not asking you to surrender. We are not demanding tribute. We are simply asking to be left alone, and you are so afraid of losing control that you would rather fight a war than accept that. Regen felt the truth of those words. The Council was afraid. They were afraid of setting a precedent. If humans could walk away, what would stop others from following? The entire system of galactic governance was built on the idea that the Council was necessary, that their rules maintained peace, that their authority was absolute. But the humans had proven it was possible to survive outside the system, and that was terrifying to the established powers. I will report back to the Council, Regen said quietly. But I fear they will not accept your refusal peacefully. Then they will learn the same lesson every human generation has learned, Admiral Park said. Freedom is worth fighting for. Regen left the station and returned to her ship. As she flew back toward Council space, she thought about what had happened. The humans were not bluffing. They were genuinely prepared to fight the entire galaxy if necessary. And somehow, despite all logic and reason, she believed they might actually win. 6 months after humans closed their borders, the galaxy had changed. Humanity was not just surviving. They were thriving. Human colonies now spread across 68 star systems. Trade agreements with non-Council species were bringing in wealth and resources, and human technology companies were selling to anyone who wanted to buy. No Council permission required. In a conference room on Earth, Ambassador Tay reviewed reports with his staff. The numbers were better than anyone had hoped. Agricultural output is up 40%, he read. Industrial production increased 30%. And our GDP grew by 12% this quarter. Hai smiled. Turns out not paying Council taxes helps the economy. It is more than that, Tay said. We are trading with species the Council ignored. We are settling systems the Council said were too dangerous. We are doing things our own way and it is working. The Council will not accept this forever, one advisor warned. Vexnar is under pressure from his government. They see human success as a threat, Tay nodded. Then we must be ready. 3,000 light-years away, High Chancellor Vexnar was holding his own meeting. But this one was with military commanders. The humans must be brought to heel, he said. Every day they remain independent. More species question Council authority. We have received reports of 3 minor civilizations refusing Council oversight. They cite the human example. This cannot continue. Admiral Thex of the Velkari fleet spoke up. A military demonstration would send a clear message. One small human colony. We occupy it quickly, show our strength and force negotiations. Which colony? Vexnar asked. New Busan. It is a farming world with minimal defenses. Only 50,000 civilians. We can take it without significant casualties and use it as leverage. Vexnar thought for a long moment. He did not want war. War was expensive and unpredictable, but doing nothing was also unacceptable. The humans had embarrassed the council. Other species were starting to believe they could do the same. Order had to be maintained. Very well, he said. Assemble a fleet. Make it overwhelming. 200 ships. We will occupy New Busan and hold it until the humans agree to negotiate properly. 2 weeks later, the Velkari battle fleet arrived at New Busan. The planet was green and peaceful from orbit. Farms covered most of the surface. Small cities dotted the landscape. It looked like an easy target. The perfect place to make a statement. Admiral Thex reviewed his scanner displays. 7 human warships in orbit. Small vessels. Destroyer class. Hail them, Thex ordered. Demand their surrender. The human ships formed a defensive line between the Velkari fleet and the planet. Thex's communications officer established a connection. A human face appeared on the screen. He wore a captain's uniform and looked surprisingly calm. This is Captain Minwoo of the Terran defense ship Incheon. You are in violation of human space. Leave immediately, Thex laughed. Captain, we have 200 warships. You have 7. Be reasonable. We do not wish to harm civilians. Surrender the planet and no one needs to die. No, Minwoo said simply. No, you would sacrifice your ships for nothing? You cannot possibly win this fight. Probably not, Minwoo agreed. But we will make you pay for every meter of space. And when word reaches Earth about what you did here, the full Terran fleet will come for you. 200 ships will not be enough then. Thex felt irritation rising. The human was supposed to be afraid. He was supposed to see the overwhelming force and surrender. That was how this was supposed to work. I will give you one more chance. Surrender or be destroyed. Respectfully, Admiral, go to hell, the connection cut. Thex stared at the blank screen in disbelief. Then he turned to his weapons officer. Destroy them. The battle began. The Velkari fleet opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams lanced through space. Missiles screamed toward their targets. It should have been over in seconds. 7 small ships against 200 large ones. Simple math. But the human ships did not fight the way Velkari expected. They did not hold formation. They did not exchange fire at a distance. They moved. Fast. Faster than Velkari scanners could track reliably. The humans dove into the asteroid field surrounding the planet. They used the rocks as cover and as weapons. A human ship emerged from behind an asteroid, fired a spread of missiles, and disappeared again before the Velkari could return fire. Another human vessel flew directly through a Velkari formation, its point defense systems blazing. It took damage but caused chaos in the orderly Velkari lines. They fight like insects, one Velkari officer complained. No honor. No discipline. They fight to win, Thex corrected grimly. Adapt our tactics. Send fighters into the asteroid field. But the Velkari pilots were not trained for this kind of flying. They were used to open space battles with clear lines of engagement. The asteroids were unpredictable. The humans used them expertly, knowing exactly when to hide and when to strike. One human destroyer, the Soul, was badly damaged. Its shields were failing. It should have retreated. Instead, it accelerated straight toward a Velkari heavy cruiser. Thex watched in horror as the human ship rammed the cruiser at full speed. Both vessels exploded in a ball of fire. They are insane, his tactical officer whispered. 3 hours into the battle, Thex had lost 47 ships. The humans were down to 4 vessels, all damaged. But those 4 ships were still fighting. They had divided the Velkari fleet, using the planet's gravity and the asteroid field to negate the Velkari numerical advantage. Velkari ships kept colliding with asteroids or with each other as they tried to corner the fast-moving human destroyers. Then reinforcements arrived. But they were not Velkari reinforcements. 12 human heavy cruisers dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. These were larger ships, fresh and fully armed. And they were angry. "This is Admiral J. Park of the Terran Defense Force," a voice announced on all channels. "Velkari fleet, you have committed an act of war against humanity. You are ordered to surrender immediately or be destroyed." Thex looked at his remaining 153 ships. Then he looked at the 16 human vessels, including 4 battered destroyers that refused to die, and 12 new cruisers ready for battle. The smart move was to retreat, take his losses and report back to the Council. But retreating would be admitting defeat. It would mean the humans had won, and that was politically unacceptable. "All ships attack formation," Thex ordered. "We will crush them with numbers." The second phase of the battle lasted 2 more hours. It was brutal. The human cruisers fought with the same unpredictable tactics as the destroyers. They used the environment. They took risks that no Velkari commander would consider. They divided their forces in ways that should have been suicidal, but somehow worked. Admiral Park commanded from his flagship, the Sejong. His tactical display showed the flow of battle. He did not see ships and formations. He saw opportunities and weaknesses. When 3 Velkari ships moved to surround one of his cruisers, he ordered 2 others to hit the Velkari from behind, while a destroyer used the planet's atmosphere to slingshot into the enemy formation. The Velkari fought bravely. They had superior numbers and firepower, but they were predictable. They followed doctrine and established tactics. The humans did whatever worked. Doctrine be damned. When the battle finally ended, 147 Velkari ships were destroyed or disabled. The human fleet had lost 3 destroyers and 2 cruisers. It was not a fair trade. It should not have been possible. But it had happened. Admiral Thex sat in his damaged flagship, staring at the tactical display in shock. His career was over. His fleet was broken, and the humans had barely scratched themselves. "Open a channel to the human flagship," he said quietly. When Admiral Park's face appeared, Thex bowed his head. "I surrender. I request permission to retrieve survivors and withdraw." Park's expression was hard. "Permission granted. You have 6 hours to collect your people and leave. If you are still in this system after that, we will finish what you started." The Velkari fleet limped away. Back on New Busan, people emerged from shelters to see the wreckage in orbit. Human ships, damaged but victorious, held position over their homes. Captain Minwoo, who had survived the battle in his battered destroyer, sent a message to the surface. "You are safe. No Velkari will touch this planet." News of the Battle of New Busan spread across the galaxy faster than light-speed communications should allow. The Galactic Council was in shock. The Velkari, their strongest military power, had been humiliated by a numerically inferior human force. On Earth, in the headquarters of the United Government, Ambassador Tay received a message. It was from High Chancellor Vexnar. The alien leader was requesting emergency peace talks. Not demanding, not ordering, requesting. And he was asking permission to enter human space to conduct those talks. Tay showed the message to High. "What do you think?" She smiled. "I think we should make them wait." "How long?" "At least a week. Let them understand what it feels like to ask for something and not receive an immediate answer." Tay laughed. "You are cruel, Captain. I am practical, Ambassador. The Council spent 10,000 years thinking they were in charge. 1 week of waiting will not hurt them." 7 days later, Vexnar and a small delegation arrived at Arcturus Station. They were not greeted with pomp or ceremony. They were treated as visitors who needed permission to be there. And when they finally sat down with human representatives, the conversation was very different from the one on Kepler 9. "We wish to discuss terms for coexistence," Vexnar said. He looked older than he had 6 months ago. Tired. "We accept that humanity will not submit to Council authority. We wish to establish a new relationship based on mutual respect." Ambassador Tay listened carefully. Next to him sat Admiral Park, still wearing his uniform from the battle. "What exactly are you proposing?" "Recognition of human sovereignty. No restrictions on your expansion. No oversight of your internal affairs. In exchange, we ask that you respect Council territory and agree to mutual defense pacts against external threats." "In other words," High said, "you want us to be equals." "Yes," Vexnar said. It seemed to pain him to admit it. "We were wrong about humanity. We treated you as inferiors when you were anything but. We asked for a chance to start again." Tay exchanged glances with his team. This was what they had wanted from the beginning. Not dominance. Not submission. Just respect. Just the right to make their own choices. We will discuss your proposal, Tay said, and we will respond within a reasonable time frame. As the council delegation left, Admiral Park stood at the observation window watching their ship depart. Hay joined him. Did we just change the galaxy? She asked. Maybe, Park said. Or maybe we just reminded the galaxy of something it forgot. That strength comes from freedom, not control. That respect must be earned, not demanded, and that humans will never bow to anyone. Far away on Earth, a young girl looked up at the stars and dreamed of the future. She did not know about the battles. She did not understand the politics. She just knew that humanity had walked away from those who tried to control them, and in doing so, they had proven something important. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is say no,